Thanks. Yeah, we're going to start with MDS setup. Okay, here we go. Now the document that we're going to follow is this one, the PPT, which is this. This is our central guide. So we'll be following step by step as described in this one. And this document talks about a couple of other documents. One of them, the first one, is the database part. It tells about how to start a database, how to stop a database, how to start a listener, how to stop a listener, all that stuff. Alright, so we are here assuming you already have a database. Alright, so we are not going into the installation of the database, setting up the database here. But if you you don't really need to do that, but if you want to do it, that's pretty there is a pretty clear document that I have used. I will send across the document, but I would suggest don't get into setting up the entire database part at this point. Alright, use either our clone. The clone that you're going to get from me is going to have an Oracle database inbuilt. It's already installed. We'll be using Oracle 11G release 2, the one that you will be using in real time. So the implicit assumption you can use only the 4 databases, supporting databases: Oracle, DB2, MS SQL Server, MySQL. Only 4. The SAW suite does not support any other databases. So the database part is this one. So we will see how to start and stop the databases first. Then we go ahead and follow the document, which is this. Alright, now the document that we are actually following, or we will actually be doing step by step, is already available here. This is a step-by-step execution. This is what we will be executing, means this is what you will be following when you're practicing. It's a very detailed document. Alright, so when I'm doing, you will be following the screenshots. So you will pretty much see the same screenshots while we are doing it. Alright, now one more thing, guys, please do not share this content, do not share this material or videos with anybody. My assumption, my trust is that you're not going to share it with anybody. These are very valuable documents, so I'm just sending a soft copy. Just make sure you don't send, give it to anybody at all. Even the moment you show it to somebody, they're going to ask for it. Remember, that's how good the documents are. Okay, let's go ahead with the installation. The first thing, I'll show you how to start and stop the database. Then we'll proceed with these 4 steps. Now before we go into the installation, let's just look at the system requirements. You need at least about 8 GB of RAM if you are planning on setting up Oracle SOA. Alright, that's bare minimum requirement. At least for now, you can function with 4 or 5 GB, but once we get into clustering and other stuff, you will require 8 GB RAM and you will require about 50 GB of hard disk uh, for storing all the files and for setting up the database. We are assuming everything is in the same box, and running the database other stuff. Alright, and somebody has to put yourself on mute. A lot of noise on the background. Slight disturbance. It's gone. Looks like it's gone. Let's see. Okay, so yes, it works in 32-bit OS. Yes, it does. We are actually working on a 32-bit system here, and all our practice for now is going to be on this box. I have a box here, Oracle Enterprise Linux 192.168.128.6 on 59 to 33 port. This is our cloud server you will have access to. Alright, so make sure you read the guidelines when you are logging into the cloud server. No, it's not public access, it's for our students. So basically I'm setting up everything on this server. So for now, yeah, it's publicly accessible, means it can be accessed from anywhere, and once you have IP port with the username password, yes, it's accessible across the world. This is the cloud server we have. Actually, at Encode we have moved everything to the cloud, so we don't have a lab as all our students can access it from anywhere. So we are pretty much using the same thing. Alright, so this is a very small system. So now here, this is the file systems we got. We got about 63 GB available. A lot of space was available. Actually, 155 gigs was actually used by a lot of students. Now you will be working under students folder. So if you see, this is a home directory you logged in. So these are some of the directories under home directory. This is where all the SY installation files are there. This is where the WebLogic installation files are there. And make sure you don't touch any other directories. You will be working under here, under students. All the students will have individual directories over there. But these are all students. Lots of students, actually connect to this box, and they can work 24/7. So we actually create one of our own directories. I think we have created last time for WebLogic this one. Let's say we create SYA or OLSYA, let's say. So I'm going to create a directory, online SYA. Alright. Now everything that you do has to be inside this. Everything related to you should be inside this. Alright. Anything outside this will be pretty much deleted without any notice. So you should not create anything over here. This is the main directory, the home directory of home and code IT. All of you will be logging into the same system with the same username password. So the files are here. You're going to copy your files, installation files, everything into your own directory, which is you have created under students OLSYA. Alright, or you will create your own thing. Let's say under students you create a directory with Prasad. Alright, now because now that you are already connected, I'm going to give you that IP port of the cloud server. Just make sure you are able to access it. Just give it a try. You're going to open up your putty, alright, and this is the IP 49.204.89.88, and the port number is 59.233. So I'm going to show you once. Let's say this is the putty you opened on your box. Alright, now on this you're going to give the IP that I provided, 49.204.89.88, 59.233. Alright, open it. Get connected. Username is encode IT, password is encode IT. Alright, now just make sure you go through the guidelines once. Alright, you're supposed to use the ports only in this range. The other ports are not accessible outside, so if you use other ports they won't be accessible. So 7001 to 9100, there are about 2000 ports open. Then you're going to create a directory under your home and code IT students. All your installations and domains should be in your own. Do not touch other students directory. Do not copy files from your laptop or desktop to the cloud server. They are not required. See, everything you need for practice is on the cloud server, so you don't have to copy anything into the cloud server or outside the cloud server. Alright, now anything outside your own directory I'll delete it pretty much without notice, no notices. So make sure you don't create anything important outside this. Basically don't do anything outside your own directory. That's simple. Alright, then there'll be a maintenance usually. Alright, but for you guys, those guys in US, we may have slight this thing kind of we keep it running. These are the two directories where your installation files are: WebLogic 10G install files, SOA installation files. Alright, now make sure just your total file size that you've been using is below 10G. Alright, so did you read the cloud server guidelines? Enter S. That's it. So you are in the cloud server. Now inside the cloud server, one very important thing, a lot of students have a confusion here. The list and address of the servers that you're going to create, make sure you don't create it, you don't use the 49.204, this thing, the one that I've given. This is not actually the list and address. You need to use what the box has, this one, 49.168, 192.168.128.6. This is the list and address of our servers going to be. Alright, but for connection purposes, for accessing the console purposes, you will be using 49. Means from outside, if you are accessing, let's say, console, you will use the 49. But for inside, if you are creating a server to the list and address, is going to be this one. Alright, now you're going to require all these things when you're working on the WebLogic. Alright, so just give it a try. If you have any issues, we will sort it out as we proceed. Now let's go ahead. I'm on the cloud server now. I'm going to go ahead with the installation. Before I go ahead with the installation, it will be the database. So the database is already available here, installed. The name of the database is encode IT. The password is a username, password is also encode IT. This is okay. This is a cloud server IP address. Connection failed. Connection failed, not possible. Just now in front of you I connected. In front of this is what I've connected. 49.204.89.88, 59.233. I can connect. That's pretty much same. You are connecting from office.
I'm connecting from my home.
Which internet you are using?
Uh, the cable one. It's a broadband connection.
Okay, we'll sort it out later. We'll
Oh,
see, how what can be done once we're done with the session. Okay, so come back here. I'm going to start the database first. So for this one, switch to the Oracle user. Now all the commands that I'm executing are in this document, how to set up the database. And though it says how to set it up, it's actually how to start the database. We're assuming the database is already set up. So these are the commands that I'm going to execute. Alright, first switch to the Oracle user. Alright, so su-oracle and code IT. You are in Oracle now. Alright, the ID is currently Oracle. Now once you are in Oracle user, the next command you're going to execute here, SQL plus /assistdba. This is for starting a database. SQL plus /assistdba. So you are connected to a non-running instance, idle instance here database. Now let's start the database using this command setup. Now all these commands are given here in the screenshot, right? You can pretty much blindly follow the screenshot. Now in real time you won't be doing this. A DBA would pretty much give you a ready-made available database. So all that you need is the database details, where the database is running, what's the name of the database, that's it. But for our practice, because we need to do everything, we are starting and stopping the database also, which is already there. So your database is up now. Exit out of it. Now start the listener. For starting the listener again, you have this command, lsnrctl start listener. Make sure you have the document open in front of you. Alright. So whatever I am following, whatever I am doing, so basically you can see all those things. Now we have started the listener. You can check the status of the listener by using lsnrctl status listener. So when you do a status check, alright, you should be able to see all these things. And this is our database. You can actually see the database using the ps-ef. These are the properties, or these are the process related to database, especially this one. This is the pmon, process manager of the database. Alright, so these are various processes of our ENCODE IT database. Now to this database is what we are going to connect to. And now let's get into that our part of installation. Now we have a database which is up and running. Alright, now you were given that database from a DBA. Now you are starting the installation. Now if you see this one, the installation, MDS is one part which is on the Oracle database, the metadata services or metadata repository it's called. JDK is the second thing, WebLogic is what you install on top of JDK, and third thing you will install a SOA suite. And once the installation is done, finally you're going to create a source domain which will connect you to the MDS. Now if you see this diagram here, the three installations don't actually require the MDS. Only when you are creating a source domain you need to connect to the MDS. So either you can, one way of doing it is you finish all the three steps at a time, these three, alright, then go ahead with in MDS and source domain, or finish the database part first and finish the WebLogic parts later. Alright, we're going to do it in a simplistic systematic way. Let's do with the MDS first. Just follow the document. MDS is a metadata services, which is a group of schemas in your database. Means there are 4 or 5 schemas that you will put, alright, into the database. Those 5 schemas together forms the MDS. And to create that MDS, Oracle provides us with a tool. The tool name is Run Control Utility. Sorry. This is not run control utility. This is repository creation utility. Strike it off, and this is not run control utility. RCU is repository creation utility. Alright, so this is the repository we'll be creating. Alright, and the utility looks something like this. So I'm going to get out of Oracle now. We'll be working everything on encode ID. This is the ID you'll be working on. Leave the Oracle ID to Oracle database. Now, so this one, these are the files. The first thing we're going to do is your repository creation. I have downloaded the RCU and put it inside here. This is your file. Oracle Fusion Middleware Repository Creation Utility for Linux 11.1.1.6 disk 1 of 1. There is only one disk for this one. That's right. There is a one-to-one relationship between a database and a relationship between MDS and server domain. Two server domains cannot use a single MDS. It's not possible. MDS is one-on-one. So every time you create, that's right, a schema is a group of tables. That's correct. Owned by a user. So there is a user. The user owns a group of tables. The group of tables is called a schema. The repository creation utility that we're going to use, this one, alright, it creates a large group of tables under 4 different users. So I'm going to explain to all those things. So here, that's right, a single database can have lots of MDS like we have. In our database, all the students usually create MDS into the same database. So all of you are also able to, you will also be going to create MDS in the same database. So make sure you don't have a conflicting MDS. That's correct, with the different prefix. That's correct. That's correct. Excellent. Now, Mukund, the chart that you are putting, put it across to everybody so that everybody can see your comments, unless it's in a one-to-one. Otherwise, they won't understand the discussion, what I'm going to discuss about, or what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Alright, now the first thing I'm going to do is extract this one. So this is what you have downloaded from the Oracle database. Alright, so extract it, but before the extraction, I'm going to open another session here, duplicate it. Code IT. Let's go to the directory. See this one. This is where the installation files are. This is where we are working. Students, just now I created OLSY. Like that, I'm going to extract the file into this directory. Alright, this is where we're going to work, and the file I'm going to extract is this one. Alright, FM RCU Linux. So we're working on 2 different windows, the one behind and the one above. Let me create a directory here. Alright, so this is our location. I'm going to create my RCU. We will do everything related to RCU in my RCU directory. Now you will also do a similar thing. There's nothing in my RCU. I'm going to extract it. This is a zip file, if you observed. So I'm going to unzip into this directory. This is the directory where I want to unzip into. If I don't give a -d, it's going to unzip in the current directory. I don't want it in the current directory. You won't be able to. It will throw out a permission denied error. So you have to extract the file source file into your own directory which you have just now created. So do this one. So unzip -d option I'm giving, or else you can copy it to your own directory, do a unzip the file name. Either way it's okay. So the unzip, after unzip, it creates the RCU home directory. Alright, so your extraction is done here. This is the file that you got, RCU home. On the RCU home, so cd RCU home, these are the directories, or these are the files related to RCU. And we have, this is our own directory. Under this we have my RCU. Alright, my RCU. Now inside this my RCU, under bin directory is what you have the installation script RCU. Here you have this one. This is a repository creation utility script that you are expected to execute. You can execute in GUI if you are not comfortable in command line, but most of the times I would prefer to work in a command line, and you may not have a GUI always if you are especially working on a server. So our assumption or our concentration will be more towards a command line options wherever they are available. Unless we don't have any other choice, we are not going to use the GUI mode. So this is all Linux, so avoid GUI wherever possible. So I'm going to use a command line installation for this one, RCU. Alright, and this is the command I need to execute, and the command is this one. I have put it into a file here. Alright, myrcu.sh. This is the command that we're going to execute. You see, this is the file name. Just now we have extracted RCU home. Under bin directory you have RCU command. You're going to execute in silent mode. We're going to create a repository. The database type is Oracle. The connect string is this one. We need to change this one. Yeah, this is correct. It's running on 192.168.128.6. The database is running at 1521. The name of the database is encode IT. Now, Oracle database or RCU requires a DBA user, means a user with sysdba privileges. This user should be available in your database. Remember, this is one of the prerequisites. It's listed in the document. If you are setting up your own database, make sure you create a user. I have created this user as for your DBA. The role you need to give to that user is sysdba. Alright, because what the RCU does is, as I said, RCU creates schemas for you, means RCU creates users for you. There are 4 users that it creates with the prefix that you give. Let's say your prefix is encode 11, so in that case it creates encode 11 underscore MDS user. Then there are set of tables in that for that user. Encode 11 underscore Aura SDPM user, a set of tables. Encode underscore SOW info user, then there are set of tables. Then it also creates another component. So because the RCU has to create users, you need to connect to a database with a sysdba privileged user. That sysdba privileged user is this one, which should be available. Means if in your environment you should ask your DBAs to create or to give you a username which has sysdba privileges. Without that you cannot run the RCU. So initially you will require a sysdba user. So here I'm going to modify the script that, even before that I will copy this script to our own directory. You cannot modify anything here. Remember, here all the files here are not owned by you, they're owned by root, and you will not have root access to the cloud server, so you cannot change anything unless it's your own directory. See this one. These are all SOV install files. The assumption is you will use this file. You're not going to change any of them. So I'm going to copy this file here. Copy my RCU file into home encode IT student OL SOA online SOA. Alright, I copied it. So let's go to the directory which is here. Oh, I think I missed one more directory. No, this is where I have copied. Let me move it into the RCU related directory. I moved it. Alright, now let's go into my RCU. Let's set this is my script. I'm going to VI it, modify it according to my environment. Now the commands that Unix commands that I'm using, I'm assuming you're familiar with those things. If you're not, just make sure you put it in the chat. I'll go ahead and explain. Alright. So this is the main command. RCU, follow the cursor on the screen. Alright. Silent, create repository, database type is Oracle. Connect string is 192.168.128.6.1521 encode IT, which is already we have just now started. There is a database sysdba user called sowdba privileges, sysdba privileges, the schema prefix. This is what we're going to change. So encode IT SOA, let's say we're going to use this one prefix. There are 4 components you will see: MDS or ISDPM. We will see what they mean later. So infra, and finally component BAM. These are the 4 components you need to install, and in this order only. There is a dependency that server infra requires or ISDPM and MDS. That's the dependence. So you have to have all the 4 in the same order. Yes, 4 are mandatory for 3 are mandatory for SOA. These 3. We will also be installing BAM, so we are setting up BAM also. So the first 3 are mandatory. BAM is also part of SOA, so but that that's an optional one. You may choose not to install BAM sometimes, but the first 3 are mandatory. There are other components. No, not at this point. There are other components if you are using other Fusion middleware products. For SOA, only these 4. There are no other components for apart from these 4. And by the way, guys, make sure you're looking at the chart. All of a sudden, if I'm talking about these components, so because Prasad has asked certain questions, so whenever any of you is asking any questions, I'm actually talking about those questions also. So make sure you follow the chart. Okay, next thing, if we need them later, we can extend them. What do you mean if we would need them? The BAM thing, yes, you can extend the BAM. Yes, it's possible. Means you can only install the required initially and later install BAM if you are planning on setting BAM at a later point. We will be doing all of them at a time. And it's a good idea to install all the 4 at a time so that you won't have issues later. Alright. Then these schemas, they will require password, isn't it? Because these are schema and user, that's what we are creating. So these usernames like encode SOA underscore MDS is going to have a username, and all those usernames I put it into a file, create pwd.txt file. So this one, this cat, this one, 3 passwords. Alright, so I put these 3 things into the file, and I'm going to copy this file also to the same location so that the RCU will read the passwords from this file. When it's creating the schemas, it will use these passwords. It will set these passwords. Home and code IT, students, online SYA, my RCU. Alright. The same way we're going to require a drop password also later, if you want to drop a repository which is already existing. So I've copied both the files over there. So let's go to that location. Students file SYA, my RCU, go in there. These are the two files. Cat create password. It has 3 passwords. I've set up encode IT as a password. Wherever you require a password, it's very likely that the password is encode IT. When you're dropping, you need to provide a password again, so that password is also encode IT. So here we go. So this is the original script that we are looking at here. This script takes this one as input, executes a command called RCU inside the bin folder of what we have extracted. So here, this is the actual meat of the script. The rest of other things in the script are pretty much same thing. Means I have actually commented all these things, so otherwise you can actually remove any of these things. I usually keep everything in the same script so that I can change things later. So I have a drop command and I have a create command. Now I'm going to execute a create. But before you do go ahead with the create, there are certain parameters that you need to set. The logs, where do the logs get created? Now you have to have a RCU-logs directory. I'm saying create all my logs under RCU logs directory. So make sure you have that directory already available. So let's say you create this directory, mkdir. So in this directory, all your logs get created. Alright. Then you are saying the timestamps. The logs will have timestamps. We will see the logs. This is the main log, rcu.log. The trace level inside this log is going to be debug level, which is trace again. Alright. So these 4 settings are the location of the log and the level of logging that we are giving and the name of the log. So I will see all those logs when we are actually creating it. Alright. So once you're set, the only thing you have to do for logging is to create this log file, this directory. No, it's not for 3 components. One password is for SORDBA because you are only giving a username here. You did not tell about the password. Then the password for all the components at a time. Alright. Then the third time the password is for BAM. Actually, these 3 things take one password. This BAM takes another password. So the first time password we are giving is for connection of S4DBA to the database. The second time password is 3 schemas. The third time password is for BAM. That's why we have 3 times the password. So now let's go ahead and execute the script. I'm going to execute the script here. /my_rcu.sh. This will connect to the database if everything is correct, and it will create those 3 repositories. Something it has. Okay, the prefix already exists. It already exists. So let's connect to the database. We can change the prefix, or let's change the prefix. That's an easy way. I'll connect to the database later and show you those things, but if you do it now it gets a little confusing. Let's stick to the RCU first. So encode, let's say we want to give some 1 1 or 2 2, let's say 3 3 we give. It's very likely that it's not available. Encode 3 3. That's a schema prefix I'm going to give. What prefix actually does is, let me show you. You connect to the database, it creates your usernames. So I'm going to describe dba_users. This query is also I'm going to give you later. Select username from dba_users. These are the users. So when I'm giving encode 33, it actually creates a username encode 33 underscore ORISDPM, encode 33 underscore MDS, encode 33 underscore SOWINFRA, encode 33 underscore ORABAM. Like that, it's going to create those users. See, these are all the users that were created, and encode SY already existed, so that's the reason it's throwing us an error. 55 is already created, so you will be using. So make sure when you are practicing, you use something that doesn't exist. And this is a command to see the list of users already available. Select username from dba_users. Alright, now let's go ahead, and this time my database user prefix is going to be encode 33. So my users will be encode 33 underscore MDS, encode 33 underscore ORISDPM underscore SOWINFRA, like that. So execute it now. Now it's creating the schemas, means the group of tables, the username, and the table spaces. Now all the screenshots for this one is in the material. So this is the database part. This document is what we are looking at. You have downloaded, you have unzipped, then you are running the RCU command. There are certain prerequisites that you have to do. Alright, you create the password file, you drop the password file if you are doing it, and finally I have executed this one. And this is what you will see now on the screen. You see this one. All the screenshots were actually taken, while we are doing it. Okay, now while this is happening, you can actually look at the users, so if the users are created or not. Let's run that command in the database. You see these things? These are the ones that are created just now. You can see the date of the creation also. DBA, describe DBA users. A describe command will tell you what are the various columns. So out of the various columns that are available in DBA users table, I am picking up username. There is a date created, this one, created from DBA_users. Yeah, you see these things in code. These four are just now created, 28th October. So you'll be able to see what's the username when it's created. So these four were just now created, 28th. Alright, you're good to go. So you're done here. 100% RC complete on this database. This is a prefix. With that prefix, we have all the schemas already available. These are the usernames as schemas. So you have MDS. This is ORISDPM, the second one. SOWINFRA, third one. BAM creates ORABAM. So these are the four schemas. Remember these schemas. These schemas are going to be asked in your interviews. MDS, ORISDPM, SOWINFRA, ORABAM. Just repeat it to yourself. Again, these are logs that were created under RCU logs directory that we have given. So these are the two logs with the timestamps. If you see the latest one, see in there. These are logs for individual components, and whereas this one is the final log. You can actually look at the log while it's happening. So this is the log file. Alright, there is nothing to look in there unless there is a problem, and it's very rare that you have any problems with at the creation level itself. So now your RCU is ready. So let's go back here. The MDS is ready. See here, all the four schemas together we call metadata services, and incidentally it also happened that one of the schemas name is also MDS. See, there is a slight confusion you might come across. The four schemas just now we have created together are called in general MDS, but it also has MDS. So when I'm saying MDS, or when somebody is saying MDS, they mean actually at entire repository level, but you can also be talking about the individual schema. So the four together is actually MDS. In general, there is also a schema with that specific name also. So depending on the context, you will pick up the meaning. So that's your MDS. It's created into our database. The next thing is the installation of JDK. The JDK is also available in the same location, so install files. So exit out of Oracle ID also. Now we are again to encode IT. CD to the location where we have the files. So install files. The next thing we're going to install is the JDK. So here you go. This is a JDK. Alright. This is JDK 1.6 for Linux 32-bit bin. Now JDK installation is pretty much executing this script. Nothing else. So I'm going to copy this script into my own directory. Home, encode IT, students, OLSYA. That's it. That's my main directory. I copied it. After you copy, you simply execute it. Let's come down here. So all your RCU related files are inside this. Now we're going to the second step. JDK. Just execute the JDK. It will simply unpack it. It doesn't do anything at all. Enter to continue. Done. JDK installed. This is the directory. Now you will be giving this location of this directory always. Alright. What you can, for the sake of making it easy, you can do is you can create a link. So JDK 1.6035. What you can do is you can create a link here. ln-s. Alright. Create a link to this directory. Let's call that link JDK. So now you have a JDK which is pointing to this one. Alright, it's under your own directory. Now once the JDK is installed, let's go to the next step. Now we're going to install WebLogic. I'm going to install WebLogic in console mode. Alright, again the steps are given in your material, so make sure you follow those screenshots along with me while I'm doing it. Alright, so I'm going to execute this script here, which is available here. Alright, so follow the screenshots on your desk. Open up the document, follow along with me. So I'm going to install WebLogic now. So we're done with MDS. Just now I created a JDK, I created a link. I'm installing WebLogic now. So let's go in there. This is where I'm going to install WebLogic. Again, under everything is happening under my directory. Remember this one. Anything outside this directory, it gets removed. I have actually put up a script to do that, so even I won't have any control over it. So it gets automatically deleted at frequent intervals. Now let's install WebLogic. Now the installation of WebLogic, I'm assuming you already know this is a file. We're going to be using 10.3.6. It's a generic installer of WebLogic downloaded from Oracle. I'm going to use a command java-jar file and the installer name. This is what the base command is. Alright, and this is what I'm going to use. The Java, I will pick it up from the JDK just now I installed. So this JDK under bin directory is where I have my Java command. So this is going to be my Java command. Where is it? Under my directory, JDK. Just now I have created a link under that bin. That's the Java command I'm going to use. So let's go back. Or for the sake of simplicity, let's say current directory Java with the jar. Where is my installer? My installer is here, home and coded. So I'm going to pick up the installer directly from this location just to keep things simple. Or you can copy this installer into your own directory. Do it. Mode equal to console mode. This is a non-GUI mode. This is WebLogic installation. It has nothing to do with SOA so far. So it's a Java-based generic installer. It's only testing in 11G. You don't have to worry about Windows operating system or Linux operating system. The 10.3.6 generic installer requires that you have a JDK already, which we have just now installed. The one moment you have JDK, the same installer can be used for Linux or Windows or anything. Okay. So this is your welcome screen as usual. Follow the document on your another one that I given you. So and you have to move to next screen. You're going to type next. If you have to come back to previous, you're going to type previous. So move on to next. Alright. Now these are the BE homes or middleware homes that are already created. Now I'm going to create a fresh middleware home for our own. So option 1, it's like an ATM menu. You select an option, give the input. So let's say option 1, we want to create a new middleware home. So give option 1 here as your input. Move on to next. It takes a default middleware home, so make sure you don't use it because you are not doing everything under this. So you are doing everything in your own home directory. Home encode IT, students, online SOA. This is what your home directory is going to be. Under this, create Oracle middleware. This is your MW underscore home, middleware home. So this part is a generic part. This is your home directory or any directory where you want Oracle related stuff. So under Oracle middleware is your WebLogic home. Alright, so it picked up the middleware home under our own directory. Then move on to next. Now this is a little confusing step here in 11G. It asks you for username password of Oracle support for security updates. Now one thing, we don't have it now. The second thing, you are not going to configure it in production. So in any case, you will basically say you don't want to receive the security updates to the environment because the username password that you already have for support, you will already receive security updates on that email even without registering while installing WebLogic. So this is a very little tricky part here for those who did not do it once. Just go by what it says. It says provide your email address for security updates and to initiate configuration manager. Receive security updates, it automatically takes yes. So we're going to convert this S into no. So select option 3. What it says, receive security updates. We are saying no, I don't want any security updates. Now it wants to confirm it. Do you wish to bypass the initiation of configuration manager and remain uninformed of critical security issues? Yes. So first you're going to say no. It's going to confirm it. You confirm it. That's a little tricky. Otherwise what happens is a lot of students uh, keep going around these two options again and again. So you may have a little confusion here. First give no, then give yes. Then your option would have changed. Or just read through the instructions. The instructions are pretty clear. Once you said you don't want security updates, move on to next. You can install a typical installation which will have a logic server and coherence, alright, or a custom installation. Basically, you're going to require both of them for SOA. So custom, even if you select custom, you still have to select everything. Alright, probably you will miss the evaluation database only. Other than that, you will have everything. Alright, so usually you can go ahead and install everything. That's what we usually do everywhere. Then the JDK, the one that we have already installed. So it already, because we are using a Java command, it already picked up the JDK from the Java command. So pick up the same thing again. Next. Now this is the middleware home that we have selected here. Initially, inside the middleware home, we are installing two products now. One is the WebLogic, other one is Coherence. We will talk about Coherence during clustering, alright? But Coherence is required for SOA cluster. If you don't have cluster, you don't need Coherence. Remember that. And SOA clusters are pretty common nowadays. So Coherence gets installed inside your MW home. A new directory gets created, Coherence home. This is the regular WebLogic home. So you don't have to really change anything in this option. You keep it as it is. Move on to next. This is installation only, so installations are supposed to be pretty simple. So don't complicate it by customizing too much. Keep it simple. So this is a summary. Alright, the following products will be installed. Where do we have? Yeah, this is a summary. Basically, we are installing WebLogic server, which is these parts. Oracle Coherence, this part. So it takes about 680 MB. That's it. Go on and say next. So your WebLogic is getting installed now. And it's getting installed under Oracle middleware directory. Okay, so your installation is done. Exit. That's it. Now let's go to the directory where we have installed it. We have installed it under our directory inside this Oracle, inside this middleware. Here we go. This is the WL home. This is the Coherence home. The rest of things are basically the regular stuff in any middleware home. Inside the WL server, you will have all the files related to WebLogic. Under common bin directory, you have config.sh, which lets you create a WebLogic domain. Now we are not going to create WebLogic domain from this location, not yet. So our third step is completed now. So we have created MDS, you have installed JDK, you have installed WebLogic. Now you're going to install source root. Alright, step 4. So here we go. For source root installation, again follow the document. Alright, so this is your source code installation. Alright, now for the source code installation, you got two files that you have downloaded from website. Disk 1 of 2, disk 2 of 2. These are the server installation. So you need to extract those two. So let's say we'll extract it into our own directory again, just as usual. So let's go to our own directory, OLSOA. We have done everything for RCO under this one. So same way, let's create another directory, mkdir myso, and we will extract everything under myso. So here, go back to that directory, unzip, fnd into myso. Alright, into this directory is what we are extracting. And what's the file we are extracting? OFM generic. Disk 1 we are extracting first. So it creates basically disks. You see, disk 1 extracted. I think 5 disks for SYA. The same way, if you see for RCU, there are no disks. It's RCU home. 3 disks are extracted. Alright, only 3. We have other file also. Now, the same way, let's unzip the second file, disk 2 of 2. So come on here, into this directory I'm going to unzip into this directory. What's the directory? This thing. Alright. What's the file I'm going to unzip? 2. Now when I'm pasting it, it actually overwriting. So it's not overwriting, it's the putty has a problem. So basically it shows like it has overwritten the command a little bit, but it's not actually. So disk 4 is getting unzipped here. So let's see, disk 4 is coming. You have 5 disks, I think. Alright, so that's also extracted. We're done here. That's it. You have pretty much unzipped everything. Now your installer is in the first disk. Go into first disk. This is your installer, the run installer. It's for GUI mode again. We're not going to use the GUI mode. We'll be using a command line execution. So I've created a small script that. Let's copy this script into your directory. Alright, myinstall.sh. Let's say we copy it into our SYO folder. So go in there, copy it, copy the file into that directory. So you have this myinstall. So just if you want to see in it, this is the command. Under disk 1, we are actually running the run installer in the silent mode. The silent mode requires a response file, means all the inputs that this installer. Can you guys put yourself on mute, guys? Riaz, can you put yourself on mute, please?
Hello.
Riaz, can you put
Okay.
yourself on mute? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. The silent mode installation, obviously, it's going to require some inputs, and the inputs will putting it into a response file. So you have to create a response file. there is a sample response file that I'm going to show you. Apart from this input, response input, inventory location you have to give. This is the location file. This has two parameters. GRE location you have to give, which we have just now installed. The log level is going to be finest, means trace level. And the third thing, this is a force command actually says, even if the home that we're going to create, even if it is already, it's supposed to be empty. If it is not empty, then you have to give force to make sure, in a non-empty folder it still installs it. So even if you don't give force, if the directory that we are mentioning in response file does not exist, it gets created. So if you get an error sometimes like the directory already exists, just give force, means override the existing content. That's what it means. So before we go ahead, I'm going to show you these two files. One is the response file, other one is inventory location files. Let's look at these two files are already available here. So I'm going to copy those two files. Copy this one. If they are not there, you have to create those files. The same way, copy response file. The sample response file actually comes with your installation. It's here. So I have copied these two files we're going to use. But if you're doing it for the first time, this you have to create. It's very simple. Inventory location, where it should be. What is the installation group and code ID? You can give these two directory locations in wherever you are installing. So you will simply create this file, but this file you cannot create. As you see, this file is a little syntax dependent file. So you need to use the file that comes with your extraction. So if you go into disk 1 stage directory, there is a response directory. In this there are sample response files. I have taken one of the sample response files. This is for WebLogic server. This is for WAS, WebSphere application server. So depending on which server you are using, you'll pick up the corresponding. I have picked up this one. So if you do open this one, this is pretty much same as the one that I'm going to show you. Alright. And so if you don't have a response file, or if you are doing it for the first time. So here we are under my SOA directory. Alright, we are doing everything related to SOA installation under my SOA directory. This is the script that we're going to have. Alright, modify this script a little bit, my install. So it's going to be under disk 1 run install silent response. Now one thing you must understand here, or remember, a very silly point but it's very important. The response file and inventory location path that you are giving, right, it has to be absolute path. You cannot give relative paths. For some reason it does not work. So it took us a lot of time to identify that problem. So unless you give the complete path, means you have to give from root level, home and code IT as well. So if you simply say / sample response file, it's not going to work. The same way if you say / aura installation location, you're not going to, you're going to see errors. So make sure you give the entire path of the response file and entire path of the installation location file. So I'm going to change the path, home and code IT, students, OL SOA, my SOA. This is where my response file is. I'm going to change the response file contents, but just now I'm creating it. We'll edit those files once we're done with it. Home and code IT, students, online SOA, my SOA directory. That's it. The GRE location also is supposed to change. Students, OL SOA, JDK, that we have already created this link. Alright. Once you're done, save it, close it. And so you have your my install file ready. Just make sure everything is, paths are correct. You're going to be under .disk run install is actual command. it executes in silent mode. The response file is this one, which we're going to change. Location file is, or our installation location, which is this, we're going to change if required. GRE location is this. So we're almost good to go, except we don't have to change the inventory location. We're going to use the same thing. Alright, when you are doing it, you may want to change it to your own location. So the second file we have is response file. So open that file. There are 3 important parameters in there. You don't have to worry about the response file version. A second thing you're going to do is you're going to skip the software updates. That's true. If you are skipping the software updates, obviously you don't want to give any location, isn't it? Software updates download location. We're already saying skip the updates. If you are skipping, you don't have to give a location, so you're going to keep it blank. Alright? Specify download location. This also you just leave it as it is. So the only change you may want to do is true here instead of false. And the important parameters that you give are these 2. One is the middleware home that we already created. Under the middleware home, we have actually created WebLogic also. And the second thing is it says Oracle home, but it's actually SAW home. So this is going to be your SAW home. So you will set up your middleware home, the one that just now you have created. Inside that middleware, you have to give the SAW home. These are the 2 important parameters you are setting here. So I'm setting up these 2 things. Just now we have created this home and code IT, student, OLSY, Oracle, middleware. We have created this directory already when we are installing WebLogic. Under this directory is where we have WebLogic installation. So under the same directory, your SOA installation also goes. So let's go back and code IT, students, OLSY, Oracle, middleware. Let's call the SOA home as Oracle SOA again. Cool. So this is middleware home and this is going to be your SOA home always. These are the 2 important parameters, and the application server we're going to use is WebLogic server. If you are using VAS, you have to give VAS here. That's it. Only these 2 parameters are important. The third thing is make sure you give the software updates as false. This one. You don't want software updates, or you are skipping the software updates. Once you're done, save it. Close the file, WQ. Your response file is ready. Now install it. See, even for this installation, we are not touching the database yet. And the next step is when we actually touch the database. So now execute my install thing. Just make sure everything is ready. Run installer silent. The response file is ready. Alright. The inventory location file is ready. GRE is already correct. Log level finest. Force. My execute that script. My install.sh. It does a basic requirement check initially. Then it reads the response file. Something went wrong. It failed. Aborting the install. Let's see what failed. It's aborted. Installation overall result of check is passed. Something must have failed somewhere. See this one. This is where we have executed the command. Pass, pass, pass. See where it's failed. Pass, 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 fail. Yeah. Okay. This is a generic error you will get always. If you get the set arc, this is one of the packages which is installed, but the installer somehow fails to pick it up. Now if you get this error, you can actually bypass this error. Means you can skip this prerequisite, assuming the rest of the checks have passed. Pass. So just make sure everything else is passed. Then we're going to skip the one that has failed. The only one, set arc failure. Pass. So everything else is passed except the set arc. The packages has actually failed because the set arc is failed. The rest of things are actually kernel success. Check complete glib success. Okay, so we have only one thing that failed is the set arc. This is a known error available on the website, Oracle website. So if this is your error, you're going to skip this error. Alright, now to skip the error, you're going to set up an additional parameter here. So remember one thing, you should not skip if there are other failures. We are skipping this because we know this is a known error. If you skip other checks, you may have issues when you're running a subdomain, so or when you're creating a subdomain. This is the skip that we're doing because we already know it. So set arc failure, you can skip it. The reason is we are skipping is this package is actually available. It's available on the, there is an advanced package to set arc which is available on the system. So when you try to install set arc 161, a system will complain there is an additional package, or a next level package is actually available on the system. 162 or something is already available. So for that reason, a set arc, whenever it's required, actually it gets used, but our installer actually looks for 161 only. So if you see set arc version, you can actually skip it. Alright, so I'm going to ask the installer to skip it because that's the only prerequisite. And the way I'm going to ask it is, I'm going to say skip system prereqs. I think there is a command somewhere, just there is an additional parameter you have to give. I forgot that. I'm checking it in another script. Yeah, see this one. Ignore sys prereqs. Ignore system prerequisites. And I'm ignoring only one prerequisite. Remember, you should not ignore. Ideally, you should not ignore. I'm ignoring because we already know about this package. We have spent enough time to realize that this package already exists. So ignore sysprereqs. It's only after the first time it failed. So do not say ignore sysprereqs at initial level itself. You have to make sure that's the only failure. Then run it. So on the cloud server, when you're practicing, you can ignore that sys prereq because all the prereqs were actually satisfied. If you get an error like package is not available or something, you need to ask the sysadmin to install that corresponding package. The list of packages is not listed anywhere, so it's only the run installer will check those packages. Do you get help info? I think so, yes. I never tried it, but let's give it a try. Why not? Well, SOA, my SOA here. This one, run installer. I think help should do. No, it's not. Sorry. There is actually, it comes. Yeah, I know. Yes, I've used it once. You will see the list of options. Hyphen silent. I think hyphen help. No. Give without any arguments. Let's try it. Why not? That will try to install. No. There is an option to do that one also. Help. So let's come back here to this file. So it's still copying. All of you are able to connect to the cloud server? Did you guys try it? Try it in the meantime if you didn't. The username password is encode IT encode IT. This is the IP address port number. Mukund, you are able to connect? Okay. Cool. Cool. Thanks, Kalyan. So make sure you create your own directory and work only in that directory, not outside the directory. Excellent. Excellent, Prasad. Okay, so you're actually, you can see what I'm doing, in front of you. Alright, so our server installation is done. Now let's go to the location where we've installed. So if you open up the sample file, we have given this is the location. Alright, so let's go to the middleware home that we already have. CD there. So we are under, this is our directory where we are doing everything. LSY. Inside this, we have installation files, MyRCU, installation files, MySV. You can remove these installation files now because installation is pretty much done. All these 3 files you can actually remove just to save some space. Remember, don't use more than 10 GB. You are not going to require more than 10 GB on this system. So I'll be deleting if anything I see unnecessary. Excellent, excellent, Mokun. You're able to connect. Alright, so now under middleware home, you're under middleware home. This is your mw underscore home. This is the parameter that represents the directory mw underscore home. In 10G, it used to be BA underscore home. From 11G onwards, it became MW underscore home. It's usually under Oracle middleware, OCAPS, MCAPS. So in this directory, you have all our middleware related products. The one middleware related product that we have already installed is WebLogic Server, which is this one. Then the Coherence, this one. And just now we have installed Oracle SYA. With Oracle SYA, you will also get, there is another directory, Oracle underscore common. So if you look at the document that I've sent to you, installation document, towards the end of that you will see directory structures. This is what gets created. This is what we are looking at. The middleware home is our Oracle underscore middleware. In our case, it has 4 important ones. WL home. This is what was created during WL installation. The same way Coherence home was also created during WebLogic installation. Then Oracle underscore SOA is just now created. The parameter representing Oracle underscore SOA directory is this, SOW underscore Oracle underscore home. It's commonly called as Oracle home itself, but it's actually SOW home. Then you have another directory, Oracle underscore common. If you see, let's go back to that location. This Oracle underscore common. This is called common components home. That's a parameter representing Oracle common. So we will be using these parameters. Remember, see, the parameters, you have to remember the parameters. What is WebLogic home is called. What is SOW home is called. SOW home is called SOW Oracle home. What is the common home is called. It's called common components home. What is Coherence home, like this. And what is the actual middleware home, MW. We'll be using these parameters at a later stage, so make sure you remember the parameter names. Alright. So that's your installation. Now after the installation, now we are done with the installation pretty much. Now the most important thing, the domain creation. This is where you're going to create a domain that will ask you for the location of the MDS during the domain creation, and this is the domain that we're going to create. We're going to create a domain with 3 JVMs, one admin server, one SOA server, one BAM server. These are the names of those servers. Encode SOA admin, encode SOA server 1, encode BAM server 1. The port numbers for these 3 JVMs are going to be 7001, 8001, 9001. All the 3 are going to be on our cloud server. This is the name of the server. Currently our database is also on the cloud server. Later we will try to move the database out of this cloud server. The reason is, when we create a cluster kind of thing, the cloud server is not able to handle all the JVMs, so we need to take off certain load out this server. So we will be creating a fresh domain later. Alright, so this is the current structure that we're going to create now. Now for the domain creation, I'm going to hold it for today here. Domain creation, startup and shutdown of the servers, everything we will do it in a single shot. That way you will have a clear idea. For now, make sure you practice the installation, especially the RCU part. It's really important that you understand the RCU, the schemas in RCU. Try to move around here and there, and make sure you don't mess up with other schemas, because there are a lot of people working on this system, so they have their own schemas. And now there is an implicit assumption and trust that you will not mess up with other students' directories. Remember that. Say we are using a single username password for everybody, so all students have their own directories, and this you don't mess up with other directories. Means if you need something, you can actually go through all the directories. You can copy the files that others are using, but don't delete others' directories or don't change other things. They will have other issues. All right. So that is based on trust. I assume you will make a very good use of the cloud server and don't misuse it. All right. So today what you're going to do is start up your database. The database, I think it's already up. So the server is going to be up for the next 24 hours. So create your own directory. try to copy it, copy the files. This environment that on the cloud server is pretty much real-time environment, because you will have issues with the file permissions. It's not like you are logged in with root, so you will not be able to do anything under any other directory other than students directory. So if you do ls-l, see this one. Some of the important directories are owned by root, like SO install files. You cannot remove anything out of this one, or you can't put anything into it. So you have to copy that file into your own directory, then go ahead with your installation. So unless try to work only under your directory, you will have all the required files under this directory. All right. So you may have permission issues. Try to sort out the permission issues. As long as you are working under your own directory, you won't have permission issues. Even if you have, you should realize that the same problems you will have in real time also. All right. Any questions? Now I'm going to stop it here for today. I'll give you this today for